Welcome back to part 2 of The Guilty Feminist. So plug in and get ready for the fun.
Hello, Hamer Hall. Are you ready for a little bit more Guilty Feminist? Are you ready for some more Guilty Feminist? Then please welcome to the stage your hosts for this evening. It's Deborah Frances White and Celia Pacquola. I've damaged it in my effort to do a dramatic spin in a cloak.
I've not damaged it all. I'm jealous,
thank
though.
God. Okay, well, I'll do it again now.
I've been away. Is the cape a new thing? Wow.
Woo! Thank you. Now, Celia Pacquola, last time we were at Hamer Hall, you were very pregnant.
I was.
And now you seem not to be.
That's true.
What happened?
What happened was I was reckless with contraception.
A memoir.
No, I had a baby, and I don't know. I think I knew this at the time, but I had a baby girl.
Yes.
And her father is Irish, so in the end we gave her a very Australian girl's name. Her name is Flannelette. It's very cute. Lucky she's a girl, because otherwise it was going to be Servo. That's tricky.
I suggested chlorine.
Did
I
you?
thought that would be nice.
Chlorine.
But
Chlamydia is sweet. Her name is Eleanor, and yeah, she's really beautiful. She's really fun and beautiful. There's so much to talk about with. But something that I do think is interesting is having a girl. Like, I was very excited that it was a girl, that she was a girl, and just unpacking those feelings. Do you know what I mean? Because having a girl, if you have a boy, you go, well, I've got an opportunity here to raise a good man in the world. But having a girl, it's terrifying, because you're going, oh, I'm sending you off into this world knowing what it's like out there. You know? I don't know. This is not jokes. This is just a thing. And it's interesting as well. Also, I did hope that she was a girl. I think also because I'm the youngest of 3 girls, and I don't speak to my father, and I don't have strong, male things. So I was worried that I wouldn't know how to connect
relate
with the boy.
To a boy.
I don't know, but it's an interesting thing to.
And are you finding that as she's growing up, she's developing a personality in your
she's got so much of personality, and do you know what breaks my heart? Like, at the moment, she's 1.5, and like, she gets annoyed about stuff, but it's normally, why have I turned off Bluey? But she seems still sort of in this bubble of joy and safety and confidence. I think we could replace that, the confidence, don't you want the confidence of a white man? I think you could also interchange that with confidence of a toddler, because fuck me, they don't give a shit. What are you talking about? They would walk out here right now, give no fucks, do a shit on the floor, walk off, don't care. What? Give me some pretzels. I'm looking for some pretzels. So it's really, and I'm really dreading the day that bubble's going to burst, and I hate that I know that it will. Do you know what I mean? I want to believe that my daughter will be the one that will go through and not be hurt by this world, but it's really. So the plan is to just, as long as possible, try and shield them from that. I don't know. That's where I'm at.
I think all you can do is give them as little baggage as possible, and I think that's true.
I have been getting mine to carry my suitcase everywhere. But I don't think you can help it. That's the thing. You don't know what. I just don't know. But I have been trying to do the work to look at what I am carrying to them and hope that they don't, and just have as much silliness and joy. And something I do have is her relationship with her dad is already so beautiful and so much more than I had. So I look at that and go, okay, well, there's also that's a start.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure you're doing a wonderful job. It's really interesting to see you.
It's weird, isn't it? I know. It's very strange.
You're now in this place where you're thinking, I've got this little life in my hands, and I don't want anything bad to happen. And that's the sort of constant worry of parenthood then, isn't it? It's like, nothing must hurt you, nothing must, get in your way. But of course, life is not like that, and they have to build resilience. But it must be a constant feeling.
Yeah, and with me as well, also being who I was, I never thought I was going to have kids. Was always about being career, and I didn't know what that would feel like when she actually arrived, as to how I would feel. And I was kind of hoping that that the career part of me would sort of die down. Do you know what I mean? Like
You think, oh, it's all in perspective now. Nothing matters. But
I thought I'd change. I really thought that I would stop caring what people think. I'd be grounded. I'd be a zen. I know. Mums in here are like, you silly fuck. I'm like, yes, I know.
Louisa,
I didn't know.
Can you just confirm or deny? Correct.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Trying to find the balance of, because it feels like the stereotype of a good mother is a lot about sacrifice. If anyone feels all about a good mum, it's like she gave of herself. She was all about me. She did this for us and forgot herself. So it feels like to be a good mum, you are supposed to forget who you are. So it feels kind of wrong to be saying, oh, actually, I'm still a person with my own wants, right? But that feels and enjoyment and being and working and all of that kind of stuff. So.
But here you are, just turning it all into stand-up gold.
Oh yeah,
probably
she's gonna pay for herself. Don't worry about that.
You'll probably turn it all into a brilliant drama as well. And you know, whatever happened to you in life, if you're an artist, you can make something.
I am finding, as I say, this is not me trying to sell the show, but I've really enjoyed doing the stand-up show because I find still today, people still have this thing about you can't say anything negative about parenthood because you don't want to come off as ungrateful and that kind of stuff. Sure. I think it's got to be totally okay to say that there's parts about being a parent that you find difficult or you don't like while still loving the kid, right? Yeah, so...
I've found to my cost as I'm not a mother, so I can't say that children are boring, or people write in and say I'm a monster. But sometimes they are.
Yeah,
children are amazing.
Really
I love children. I'm brilliant with children.
They completely are.
Sometimes
Not
they're
mine.
very
The
dull.
others are terrible.
Just because I haven't
Mine's
had one.
gifted. Sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't... You know, anyway.
But anyway, thank you. I just thought this is the place that anyone who saw me, the show when I was here 1.5 years ago. So that's where I'm at, and my opinions and feelings about that might change.
Well, I'm
But at
delighted.
the moment, we're very happy. The juggle is real, but...
I'm delighted you're back out and that you have brought life into the world. Celia Pacquola, everybody.
Thank you.
I can confirm, having met Eleanor, that she is an absolute delight. She's a munchkin. She's glorious. So I'm very...
Can you imagine if she's gone, I have met Eleanor, and I can tell you, what a prick. Oh, my God. Fashion sense, 0.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I'm far too mumsy for that. Am I not, Louisa?
Do you know what else is weird? She's very suspicious of men, and I'm like, good girl.
All right, it's time for our guest. She is an adored Australian comedy actress. In fact, she tops lists for most loved Australian all the time. I don't know what it is with Australia, but we don't seem to have this in other countries. But you keep doing these lists of, like, who do you love the most and who's got the best personality, which I think does throw a lot of people off their game, and they're like, oh, I'm bottom of the list of people love. But Magda's always right at the top. She is an author, singer, and LGBTQ+ rights advocate. She also tops lots of polls about who's loved the most in Australia. She is best known for her hilarious roles in Fast Forward and, of course, Kath and Kim as the incredible Sharon. Please welcome to the stage the wonderful Magda Szubanski! So delighted to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
You brought a pack.
I brought my baggage. I don't know. I was like to have my backpack. I don't know why.
You brought your emotional baggage onto the stage.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you can't trust any of them. They'll steal it. Keep it close. Keep it close. Magda, I'm so happy to have you on. I've wanted to have you on.
I'm so
for
happy
years.
to be had.
Yeah. I've wanted to have you on my couch for years, and you've got your whole own. You can put your feet up if you like. You can use it like a chaise longue.
Oh, thank you. I shall.
Like a therapist's. Yes, perfect, lovely. Celia, I've wanted to have Magda on for years, and finally she's here, so we get to ask her stuff. I've obsessed with her book, and I read it a while ago. It's really good. If you haven't read it, you absolutely have to get it. This is the opening sentence of the book. I'm bringing it up on my Kindle. I'm not texting. This is the opening sentence. If you had met my father, you would never, not for an instant, have thought he was an assassin. Now that's
Has anyone got anywhere to be? Because it's going to take a while if you're going to read the whole book.
The second sentence is that, this is a memoir.
incredible.
What? There's been no better opening sentence since it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. What a fucking blinder of a sentence that is. And I mean, anyone who can stop reading there, I don't know.
Well, I wasn't going to put that sentence first. And for those of you who are laughing, get fucked. Because that's a true and really sad story that involves the Holocaust. So, awkward.
Now you feel bad.
Yeah,
but do
I
you
hope
feel
so.
free to laugh at other things? They're now nervous to laugh.
Look, I'm sick of being loved. I'm really... it's my time. It's my time to just...
Listen,
what?
it's a fascinating book and so beautifully written. You have such a turn of phrase.
Thank you.
And lots of comedians' memoirs are really... They're okay, but they're not like this. It's like poetry.
Oh, thank you. This book did... Sorry? Yeah, there is an audio book. Me reading it, doing all the accents.
That's a very typical guilty feminist heckle again. The audio book's wonderful. It's not a normal comedy club. It's not a normal comedy club. Get the audio book.
It is. So my father actually was an assassin. In the Second World War, he fought for the Polish resistance. And he was essentially an executioner in a top-secret counterintelligence unit working for the Polish resistance.
Against the Nazis.
Against the Nazis. My entire family hid Jewish people. My family were Catholic, but my grandparents, my aunt, my uncle all hid people, smuggled guns into the ghetto, hid Jewish people all throughout the war in Warsaw. And Warsaw was a terrible,
And it says in the book that they considered any... They said any Jewish child is a Polish child. There was a real proper resistance and an absolute.
Well, the thing is that people think that Hitler's regime was sort of uniform, but actually it was quite different in different parts of Europe. So for the Slavs, that's the Russians and the Poles, they were treated very differently. They were treated marginally better than the Jews, whereas the Danes, they were treated quite. Well, they also traded armaments, but they were treated not as viciously as the Poles were treated. So the Poles were treated really appallingly. And with that first sentence, I wouldn't have put that at the beginning, actually, because I thought it was a bit sensationalist and I was so shy. I mean, as a comedian, to suddenly actually write my first serious piece, and it is about, the Second World War and the Holocaust, and the editor put the sentence first. And I thought, oh, geez, I don't know about that. And I took it home to my family and read it to them. And my nephew, who was in his mid-20s at the time, said, I'd read that. And I thought, that's it, because there's no point, writing a book if no one reads it, so...
And you talk about it about the women's acts of resistance in your family
Women's conspiracy,
as well.
yeah.
What is it called?
My aunt called it, my Aunt Danuta. She hid a little Jewish boy in her bed, actually. She used to pretend to be his mother because she had blonde hair and green eyes, and he had blonde hair and blue eyes, and she hid him for months. But she also used to smuggle pamphlets. So many women were involved in various forms of resistance, but my father said that his mother, my grandmother Jadwiga, who was a fat, middle-aged Polish, upper middle-class matron. We've got a picture of her in a fur coat on the ski slopes, and he said she was the bravest person he'd ever met. And she slept with a folded-up Polish flag under her head and a pistol in her pocket.
Wow.
Most likely for use on herself and her children had they been caught. And the thing is, I wanted to tell that story because you very rarely hear of the story from the Polish perspective anyway, but also that story of women, but also kind of the cost of courage, because they paid quite a high price for doing the right thing. And I think people sort of glibly say, oh, we should do this or we should do that. And I'm like, well, I've freaking lived with these people who did do the right thing, who got sent off in cattle trucks, who couldn't go home again. My father, from the age of 20, never saw his parents again, So I think this sort of I just wanted to bring that story into the public of people who were extremely oppressed as well. It wasn't like they were free Poles and it was all fine. Like, they were having a terrible time. But to have that courage and to even sort of know really what the right thing to do is, one of the things, can I tell you this story? This is one I've been telling a bit because I've been thinking a lot about this and how our minds are conditioned and what it is about us that in a moment can reveal our moral architecture. So at the end of the war, my father, who had spent the war executing German collaborators, who were telling the Gestapo where Jews were hiding. So he was fighting Germans throughout the war. He ended up cattle trucked out of Warsaw and he ended up in a POW camp. And one of his friends said to him, at the end of the war, you would have hated the Germans so much, you would have wanted to have killed the children in their cradles. Yeah, this is revenge, isn't it? This is revenge. And my father said to the contrary. He said, when we were released, the Russians liberated them. And there were a lot of Russians and Poles in the POW camp with my father. And the Russians gave them 24 hours to go into the local German town and have their revenge. And so exactly what you're seeing in Ukraine, that's what happened. And my father, rather than give in to that bloodlust, agreed to go and stay with a household full of German women because the only way to protect them was to have a Polish POW with them. So in that moment, it was the character, the moral character that he had to resist that. And I think it's something, it's almost like, I feel like, please let me go and tell that story to the military about how when you have honour and self-respect, you do not. Sometimes, look, war happens, but you don't have to dishonour yourself and you don't have to dishonour women in that way. You can have self-respect, and that it absolutely degrades you to do those sorts of things that we've seen. And to say that in the fog of war and in the heat of war, you can't fight that, well, fucking bullshit, because my dad did. And if one person can do that, then that means that anyone can. If one person can think that thought, then that thought is available to absolutely everyone. And it's just making that clear of the dignity of that thought, I think.
Agreed. It's a wonderful story and a wonderful message. And do you feel like you've inherited your activism? Because you're somebody who has, in this country, you became the face of marriage equality in many ways, didn't you?
Well, look, I think as my story, actually, I want to workshop this with you. So I'm writing my next part of my memoir, and do I tell the story, like the tagline to that thing that I introduced before, or
yes.
should I? Do you think I'll sell more books if I tell these people now, or make them wait and buy the book?
Well, I think.
You buy the book anyway?
Yeah, I think they're going to buy the book.
These are the right people to tell, because they're in Melbourne. They're the feminist I don't mean influencers like Instagram influencers. They're the influential feminists who are going to go and say, "Oh, you've got to buy Magda's next book. She told us a great story." But they will trail it without giving the ending away and force other people to buy books.
I love you. I love you so.
So you were living in a lesbian separatist commune.
Well, yeah.
So
let's go back to that. So when we talk, yes, sorry.
Well, a very, very small question. Do you remember whose idea it was to go, hey, let's get the paint?
Oh.
Was it you? Busted!
I don't know. I don't know if it was me, Jane, or Helen, but... but, look, the thing was, I still feel the sort of legacy of that courage and altruism of my family. Yeah. And I feel like I never actually measure up, that story being almost proof of it. But, so in 1979, I went and worked at Refuge Referrals, and then I worked in Women's Refuge for 2 years. And that was at a time when we were trying to sort of completely reinvent and also make aware to everyone domestic violence. So, you know, the police didn't take it seriously. Like there was one woman who we went to her house. Her husband worked in a dictatorship in Southeast Asia in the Secret Service, and was a very sinister guy. And we had no police protection, and we had to go and collect like her passport because these women would just flee, right? And we had to go and collect her passport, clothes for the kids, and we couldn't get the police to come with us. Sue, one of the workers I was with, went round the corner, and there's a guy with a hunting knife this size under his chin. And she ran out going, fuck, run, you know, and we ran. And the young policeman, yeah, I know, right? So this is what we're dealing with. And I was like 18, 19, you know. The young policeman came and he was sort of rocking back and forth on his heels, and he said, yeah, look, I've spoken to this fellow and he assures me everything's going to be fine, and, you know. But, you know, we've still got 45 fucking years later, women going complaining to the police saying, my ex is stalking me, da-da-da-da-da, and they still get killed. And so part of me is like, the whole point of women's refuges and the refuge movement was really to introduce society to the idea that it's not just an individual pathology, but it is systemic, and to really change attitudes towards domestic violence. And I think that we actually did achieve to some extent. But the toll it took on all of us, I had a breakdown after it, you know, because it was really quite traumatic, as I'm sure you can imagine, but because we also were moving away from the model of sort of a lot of the stuff, it was the old noblesse oblige kind of version of charity, whereas we were completely reinventing the way it was done. So we didn't have much support, basically, and we were right there at the coalface. So anyway, I went overseas, went a bit crazy, came back, and then moved into the lesbian separatist. So this is the context, you see, for the misogynist graffiti. So have you ever lived in a lesbian separatist feminist?
I visited one in Sydney when I was a Jehovah's Witness, but I'll be honest with you.
Was that you?
Put your hand out,
I'll tell you what, I was trying to rent a little studio room so I could teach students drama, you know, after school. And it was because it was a sort of good part-time job for a Jehovah's Witness who spent all her days knocking on doors. And I just saw it in the paper or something. I thought, oh, well, this sounds good. I'll go around and have a look. And when I got there, I looked like Alice in Wonderland. I was like, I don't know, 21 or something like that. And I remember I had this long blue dress on that was very dowdy. And because you have to dress dowdily or the elders tell you off. They say not dowdy enough, frumpier. And I remember I had an Alice band, and I had this kind of, and I looked, oh my God, I looked like the virgin I was, like the throbbing virgin I was.
Oh, there it is.
And I went up, and what's this room? And it was a lesbian separatist colony. It was definitely that. And it was, but it was, you know, in the 90s, Sydney it was kind of like an army of like people who'd been chased out of towns because of homophobia.
Yeah.
And they said 2 in 3 in the eastern suburbs were gay at that time. And we were 5 Jehovah's Witness girls living in a 2-bedroom flat because that's all we could afford. And we realised that everyone else in our building was gay. And they thought we were lesbians because 2-bedroom flat, 5 women. I think they thought we were a couple and a throuple. It took me ages to realise that that's what they thought because we never brought men home. So because we weren't allowed to. Anyway.
The only question I have is what you hadn't moved on to the idea of the quintuple yet.
Maybe that is what they thought. Maybe they thought it was a throbbing orgy day and night. But I'll tell you, it wasn't. But anyway, we went. I just remember the big, lots of hair. I remember when I went into the lesbian commune, and they were kind of quite. They could see me, and they were enjoying snogging in front of me, and I was just like, "Oh, it's a lovely room. I'll let you know." And then they must have laughed.
We would have just gone, "Yes, hello, breakfast." I just think that maybe came across a bit wrong. You know what I mean?
Hello, Jamila Jamil here. You may know me from my role in The Good Place or from She-Hulk or from social media and my activism. I Weigh basically started as a social movement, and my podcast is one of my truly greatest achievements. It's a podcast against shame and a place for us to have really honest and truly inclusive conversations. I love connecting with people. I love learning. I have a lot to learn, and I'm inviting you along with me. On I Weigh with Jamila Jamil, I have friends, activists, specialists, and absolute heroes join me to teach me from their experience and expertise. People like Conan O'Brien, Jane Fonda, Roxanne Gay, Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Byer, Alok, Kelly Rowland, and more. I Weigh with Jamila Jamil has new episodes out every Tuesday, and you can find the show on earwolf.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
But so the lesbian separatist house I lived in, and I very much understood and continue to understand the need for, patriarchy sort of, I don't mean to say bad things about Italian or Greek people, but you know how they concrete over their back gardens? That's what patriarchy felt like. Like no sprig of anything could grow up, from under that sort of like oppressive concrete of patriarchy. That metaphor work?
I think some people have taken it as an innuendo, and I'm not sure how.
And also, it's accurate. I can say, having an Italian nonna, yes.
It is.
Concreted backyard, the tree that we played with in the backyard was the hills hoist.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Trees and weeds and grass are the enemy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so the need to have a space where you could, there are a number of things, just to, very much in those days, it was about essentialism, the female body, what truths, are there truths, is there an essential feminine anything, could we have a minute to see if that is the case? But it did, I think, go a little bit too far. So we weren't allowed to have male pets.
That's quite extreme.
Yeah.
No red rockets allowed.
None. It was also, one of the people there, this I think is actually what pushed us over the edge. One of the people there was a free bleeder.
Oh, okay.
And kind of performative about it.
What, like an artist, like sort of something like Jackson Pollock?
Yeah. Well, look, she kind of thought that tampons were a patriarchal conspiracy. Look, at the time, there was toxic shock, but it's like, that's fine, but not on the soft furnishings.
Yeah. There are limits.
Not on the food preparation surfaces. No. Fucking terrible. And so it was this constant, it was like,
Sorry, I'm just picturing like a slug kind of just scooting along.
Dragging it up.
Wow.
I'm a lesbian.
Bit of this one.
Oh my God.
Every time you sat down on the couch, you'd be like, because
I'm a lesbian separatist, but don't free bleed on my sofa.
Well, we were trying to be all positive about, women's bodies and stuff.
Yeah, no, I get it. But there were limits.
There were limits.
There were limits to our feminism.
So what happened was, it was like, anyone who's a Catholic, the Catholic examination of conscience, it's like, every single thought you had, like you couldn't shave your armpits, you couldn't go to McDonald's, it was just like you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, you couldn't do that. And we broke. We broke. And we got pissed.
Yeah.
And we raided the feminist urban guerrilla movement cupboard, which is where our activism was stored. And I keep it in a filing cabinet at home now. We got out the spray paint and we wrote on the brick wall out the front. It was a dead of night and we wrote in big red letters across the front wall of the lesbian separatist house, "Show us your tits."
Show us your tits. Show us your tits.
It was, and the other thing is, the lesbian separatist household was right in the middle of the Jewish Orthodox community. So it was right next to Masada Hospital. So it was just wrong, and so I got hauled in front of the tribunal. It wasn't Robespierre. I survived.
The tribunal, what the commune tribunal? There was a tribunal.
Oh my God, yes. No, when I was a young student, right, the politics was so fierce that the Maoist, one person got kicked out of their house and was called a bourgeois individualist for wanting to shit with the door shut.
No.
Yeah.
They were called bourgeois because they wanted to close the loo door.
A bourgeois individualist.
What? Individualist.
Wow. Yeah.
See, the thing is, we think Generation Z sometimes get a little bit like, okay, with the rules and they're telling us what to do and, let's leave nuance and conversation and discussion. But what you're saying is Gen Z are
They've got no idea. They're hopeless.
Nothing compared to Gen X lesbian separatists.
Well, I was Gen X boomer probably, really, but no, they're shit at it compared to us. Like,
wow, because
we really knew how to do extremism.
I think Gen Z...
Can I just say too, you guys did not invent bougie. I'm sorry. We were saying that in 1978.
You were saying bougie?
Bougie.
Bougie.
Me and my friends, everyone was bougie. Bourgeois, bougie. Oh, that's a bit bougie.
We say bougie now, I think. I think it's morphed. Bougie.
Bougie.
We said
bourgeois.
We said boogers.
That was the generation in between.
Yeah, we got nothing. I'm desperately trying to concentrate to remember that because I'm going to bring that out in a cafe. You're such a bourgeois individualist.
Oh, I know.
I can't wait.
No, there was nothing that you could do, but I think there is a similarity, and also the benefit of now. I mean, we're talking 45 years ago, and now having lived through the backlash, we were talking about this before, and basically patriarchy just concreted over us again. And I barely uttered the word feminist again until 2011, I reckon.
Wow.
Because you couldn't. I mean, unless you wanted to just be buried and have,
Not have a career.
Not have a career.
Which brings me to something that I was going to read from your book. Can I read you a tiny bit of your book?
Please do, yes.
And Celia, while I'm bringing it up, please do, because you would have been of an age where, and in Australia, when you Magda's work must have inspired you.
Yes, I know.
Big Girl's Blouse.
I'm trying to be so cool. Can anyone tell? We have lots of things to talk about. I mean, what I'm interested in is, Big Girl's Blouse I really want to talk to you about because I feel groundbreaking, phenomenal. When I think back to it now, I think it'd be groundbreaking now for there to be a sketch show that was 3 women, let alone when it was 1994, which I had to look up. I didn't realise that's when it was. But something that I really am interested in asking you, because you've done so much... Did you ever consider stand-up? I know you did the law review, which I also did because of people like you and to follow and all of... whatever. But did you, because I know you've done character, did you ever consider...
I hate stand-up.
Oh, that's hurtful.
So
they don't meet your heroes, everybody.
Did you enjoy stand up tonight, though?
No, I love watching other people, but that is a really extreme sport, and I it's not quite how it's just not the way I came through character acting, and doing characters and I think because also, I mean, I was born in England, born in Liverpool, surrounded by accents, mimicry and accents and characters. That's my bliss. That's my happy place. And it sort of was just a bit. That was at the time too. It was a lot of sketch comedy, and it was an amazing time, especially in Melbourne. There was this huge crop of people who came through. John Pinder was very crucial to that. He was an amazing impresario, really, and a lot of us came out of that time. But no, it really... But Big Girl's Blouse was really, constantly... There was a bit of a frustration that we were aware that we had a slightly different sensibility and that we would find it hard to get through the gatekeepers. And so Gina and Jane and I just decided to do our own show. And it's like that line that Judith Lucy says, if you have more than one woman on stage, it's like you're planning the feminist revolution, And we were quite shocked because I certainly came from a very feminist, clearly, very feminist background.
Yeah.
But we didn't define ourselves as feminists. It was just three women doing a show.
Well, this is the thing. You'd always get asked, like, what's it like being a woman in comedy? It's like, I'll tell you when I've been a man in comedy. I don't know. I just do comedy and happen to be this. And I feel like that's a lot of, with all of that stuff, is it's just funny. It's not, it's a female perspective often, but...
We deliberately made sure, there was a lot of stuff at the time about menstruation and blah, blah, blah. We deliberately... There's actually a sketch where we're going, a man walks into a shop, and we had to rethink, because it was... As the women, we a lot got the clipboard holder roles, where the guys would do the funny stuff and and there was one contemporary of ours who, one of us asked him, do you think women are funny? And he went, not really, no.
What?
And so, I mean, I never believed that because my mother and her family are hilarious. So, like, my mother's Scottish, right? I've got to tell. Can I tell the story about?
Yes.
Okay. In the kitchen, in Scotland, in winter time when they're drying clothes, they hang them. You know this, the pulleys in the kitchen where they hang all the washing. And this was just after the war. And my mother has Italian further back end. She's very high cheekbone. She and her sisters, and haughty, long noses and very working class, but and they're sitting there playing ladies. This is after the war. And just as they're sitting there, suddenly a huge pair of my Uncle Bernard's jocks fell into Auntie Mary's lap. And without missing a beat, Auntie Mary went, just my luck. Empty. Now, so I've got that guy saying women aren't funny, and now I've got my aunt being fucking hilarious. Which one will I believe? And yeah. And I just want to add to, in defence of the lesbian separatists, like, there was earnestness, and let's be real, post Sinead O'Connor, I think we're now knowing that a lot of that anger from that time was from, millennia of unexpressed, unacknowledged, rampant sexual violence against women. And so most of the women in that collective and in that house would have been, we were like untreated head wounds walking around, trying to find the way. So in some ways I don't judge it, although it drove me crazy as well. And it's both of those things. That's the thing, isn't it?
On the comedy front, I found the bit. This is about your time in Fast Forward, which started in 1989. Yeah. And I think it's hard for us, even if we can remember 1989, to remember the landscape and how different it was in terms of sexism. And lots of people here will be born after that. Just give us a cheer if you're born after 1989. There you go. They won't even remember this at all, but it was very different. And you say in here, the best way to get airtime was to write your own sketches. My fear of the blank page had now diminished only slightly, and now I decided it was time to slay that demon. Aside from us performer writers, there was also a team of dedicated writers, initially almost entirely male. The writer's room was on the ground floor of a building we called the Castle, a jerry-built two-storey structure on the corner of the Channel 7 studio lot. This small, airless office was a haven for the comedy boy boffins. Cast members rarely approached. I could see no material difference between myself and the writers. What made you a writer was having the balls to call yourself one. That and a computer of one's own. The girls and I would go down to the Galleon Cafe in St Kilda to write. We spent hours noodling around, making one another laugh and penning sketches by hand. Consequently, no one took us seriously. So I bought my first laptop computer, and then I pushed open to the door to the writer's room and went in. The boys were surprised to see a cast member, let alone a female one, in their domain. I seem to remember them blinking at the rare glimpse of light from the outside world. But they were very welcoming, and I soon realised that I could write just as well as they could, or at least I wasn't any worse. I learned 3 invaluable lessons in that room. 1, get the tools of the trade. 2, don't compare yourself with Shakespeare. 3, appreciating the beauty of impermanence. Cranking out 26 episodes a year of sketch comedy is the TV equivalent of making a Buddhist sand mandala. You cannot get attached to your beautiful successes or tragic failures because next week it will all be gone and you'll have to do it again. I found that very liberating. That's a beautiful, beautiful piece of writing.
Thank you.
And in 1989, to go in and say, you're all guys in here, but I'm going to come in, I'm going to bring a sketch, and to figure out it's something as simple as get a laptop and make it look like theirs, act like you're a writer, tell them you're a writer, and you will be.
Yeah, because the thing I was going to say, those lesbians were hilarious. That's the other thing. This whole thing of like they were humorless. No, we weren't. We were oppressed people. I'm sorry, are some of the funniest people in the world. Jews, Irish, Aboriginals. Come on. I was aware of the fact that. I judged myself by a very high standard. Like I would always be going, I think everyone judges themselves by Shakespeare, and then I thought, or I could judge myself by the other people in the room, and there were There were a lot of great men in that group, but there were some who really, they wrote shit, and they called themselves writers, and I would see them out and about, big noting, as though they were the engine that drove that show, and it was just galling, and I was just like, oh, well, fuck you, and so I'm swearing a lot, I do swear a lot. Is that all right?
Oh, we broadcast this on His Majesty's internet, and
to
my knowledge, there is some swearing on that.
So, right.
Yes, it's not the ABC. Don't worry.
Are we on the dark web as well?
There's no watershed where we're going.
So it seemed to me that it was bluff. It wasn't actually quality. It wasn't actually ability. It was a confidence trick. And so I suppose I'm grateful that I was able to see through that. But I think the two things. One is the evidence of my mother and her hilarious sisters. My mother was also hilarious. But also my father, growing up with a mother like the mother he grew up with, he brought me up to believe I could do absolutely anything that a man could do, except maybe lift a fridge.
I absolutely loved watching, in preparation for this, when you came out on the project. That was really moving. If you've not seen it, go to YouTube, because it was in response to you being asked to back marriage equality, and previously, although you were out in the industry, you weren't in, but you hadn't ever publicly made an announcement.
Yeah, I was, as they say, I was one of the worst kept secrets in,
Yeah. But you'd never made a statement or written a book or referenced it in an interview so that the public didn't know, because the landscape, as you say in the book, was such that it was so homophobic when you would have ended up only being able to do...
Playing to 200 lesbians in a tent in Kyneton, yeah.
That sounds fun.
It's not bad. I've played worse gigs.
Yeah, it's just you wouldn't have got to play Sharon probably, because your life wouldn't have, we saw what
I
happened to
wouldn't.
Ellen in
Actually,
the 90s.
that's exactly right. There would be no Sharon. There would be no Mrs. Hoggett. The book wouldn't exist. None of that would exist. But also, it was also that I wanted to interject myself into the mainstream. I felt that I wanted to... What's the point of on the margins with those ideas? I wanted to try and find a way to bring those ideas like that we had at the refuge about domestic violence or anything, and luckily, the people I've worked with in Fast Forward and stuff, on the whole, the politics we all cohered pretty well. But I wanted to. That's a really a very. It's almost like a primal instinct in me, that one, to be in that to get into the mainstream. I love that. Humans, we're a herd of individuals, aren't we? We're part bee, part unicorn. And it doesn't always sit easily, but I do have big bee energy as well.
Oh, but did you find after, because from the outside, from where I am, there was the love and support after you did come out. What was it like for you?
Oh, sorry, yeah, getting back to that.
I just meant in terms of career as well.
I do love a tangent. It had an amazing reception. And first of all, we were sort of planning how to do it. So I was meeting with Karen Phelps and some other people, and she suggested Valentine's Day, which I thought was a beautiful day. And then I thought, well, we sort of want to get people's attention that I'm going to be doing this tomorrow. So as a bit of a tease and a bit of a stir, I'll put out a little press release the night before.
I've got it here. Do you want to read it? Or do you want to just paraphrase it? How do you want to just
I can read it if you like.
Okay, lovely. I have it here. I really, really love it.
So this is a press release that we put out. And it said, "We pay taxes, fight wars for this country, nurse you when you are sick, make you laugh, sing and dance for you, play netball for you, star in your movies, cook your meals, decorate your store windows, and chances are gay people designed whatever it is you're wearing. All Australians, including gay Australians, should have exactly the same rights, including the right to love, marry, and take care of our partners."
And then you went on, there was lots of media speculation that day of like, will we make you laugh? Or what we...
Did she just come out?
Did she just come out? And then you went on the project and you talked about it and you cried on the project just talking about like having the obligation of having to hide it in order to have any kind of social capital and mainstream quote-unquote appeal. And... and it was sort of like a valve. And I think it was so persuasive. And I know what annoys me is that and upsets, I think, everybody is actually gay people shouldn't have to be lovable in order to get empathy. They shouldn't have to be. Straight people are arseholes all the time, and we're always allowed to marry. So but. The fact that you were on the top of those lovability lists and people really love you in this country and you sat there as your lovable self and showed your vulnerability and said, I've had to hide who I am from you so that you will allow me to make you laugh. And I think that melted the hearts of a lot of Australians who went, oh, well, if it's Magda. And then they were able to then go, well, then if it's the postman or if it's the grocer or the kid walking down the street.
It did feel like, this is just my one example of it. I was in a taxi with a guy who I got into conversation about it who was against it, and it turned out, and I just explained it to him. He didn't know anyone who was gay at all. And he's like, I guess if I had and I thought of it like that, then I would be in support of it. And I feel like with you, Magda, everyone feels like they know you. It shouldn't be the case that people need to know someone in that situation to feel like everyone has equal rights.
I think we just usually, life is hard. We're busy. We run along certain tracks. We're often preoccupied with the price of living or whatever, and you accept often the morality of what's around you. And so it took time for me to adjust and to understand my sexuality. So it felt like it would be churlish to not allow other people to go on that journey as well. And it's something I think that I really... there's an impatience people have for change, and I get it. But you have to be sensitive to the backlash, and you have to always do a thing of, it's not that the ends justify the means, but the means and the ends should be the one thing, and they should work together. So the ends should inform the means, but if you're such a purist about things, if you're so unforgiving, if everything you do is should, ought, you ought to get my position, you should understand me. Well, yeah, maybe you should, but you don't. So there's lots of things that I would not understand about what it's like to be a white man. There would be challenges that white men face. I think in many ways their world can be quite brutal. And the whole thing, there's this thing that's developed which is a resentment that I will not explain my oppression to you. Well, what is communication for? We are blessed that we are able to share what's in our hearts and minds and souls and build a bridge to other people. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And it's messy and it's fumbly and we need to be forgiving. Can I tell another story about a cab driver?
Yes.
When I was in London, this is at about the time when marriage equality was happening, and I got into a cab, and for some reason, I don't know, it came up, and a cabbie, typical London cabbie, right? and I was talking about marriage equality, and he said, I don't know if I should say this, it's probably politically incorrect, but I don't have a problem with the gays, but I don't mind the gays, but I do have a problem with the lesbians. And I thought, oh shit, here we go, I'm in for a double whammy of misogyny and homophobia, great. And then I thought, no, down dog, down Max, down, calm down. And I thought, oh, just stay open, And I said, oh, why is that? And then he said, well, the gays, they keep to themselves, don't they? But the lesbians, they're taking all the women. and I laughed, and it was a daggy dad joke. And we ended up chatting. And then he said, oh, because, I do sometimes wonder, it's funny, innit, but I wonder if I could be gay. He said, I'm not gay, but I do wonder. He said, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, I wonder if I could be gay, just sort of shooting the shit in it. And I said, what, you just shoot the shit wondering? He said, yeah. And she was like, are you trying to tell me something? He's like, no, I'm just saying, if it's certain, I don't know, circumstances, I could be gay. And I said, what, you mean like if you were in prison? And he went, yeah, like that. And I said, oh, well, that's what we call a situational gay. And he went, oh, I like that. I'm going to use that. And we ended up having this fantastic conversation about what is sexuality, what constructs your sexuality. And he had none of the words to know how to reach me. And it meant some work on my part, but he was trying to. And I swear to God, I wanted to give him my number at the end and let's be besties, And if I'd done that thing of you should know, you shouldn't, we would have missed that beautiful moment, and there would be someone who was deprived of being an ally, which would have hurt him, me, and all of us.
I agree. So much of it, and so much of that anger that you see online as well, is, I think, just that language is so limited that all of us are just trying to say, and it's why we group as well, and why we say, I'm this or I'm that, and I think it's a lot of it is just somebody saying, is my experience of being human anything like your experience of being human? Because I cannot get out of my head into anyone else's. And a lot of the fighting and the storytelling and all of it is just desperately reaching out of this head with holes in it, going, anybody out there, is it anything like this? Because I'll never know.
Yeah.
I said love, I said darling, I said lesbian, I said separatist. It's Magda Szubanski! To close the show, Grace Petrie! Just want to say this is our 400th show. Thank you so much for coming. And I toured this show around Australia and New Zealand, Aotearoa, for years with a very good friend of mine and one of this country and New Zealand's finest comedians, Cal Wilson. I adored Cal. She was one of my best friends in the world, and she co-hosted over here more than anybody else. She was so dear to the Guilty Feminists. We lost her last year very, very suddenly, and none of us have recovered from it. We've talked about her on this tour. We started in Christchurch, and which is her hometown, but Melbourne was also her hometown. She lived here. She was local. She was one of us, and we dedicate this 400th episode to Cal. Cal, we know you're with us. And we miss you. We want to keep talking about you and keep your memory alive. Grace, what you got for us?
I think you kind of said it all. This song is about Cal. The jobs that we do, we have these friendships that are so amazing, and we see each other so infrequently. And this is about holding those people and those moments very close. It's called A Brit, an Aussie, and a Kiwi Walk Into a Bar. And it is about doing this tour over here with Deb and Cal Wilson, which is some of the happiest days of my life because of this. It's the start of 2020, and I ain't ever been this far. The green room at the Enmore is a galaxy of stars, and you are sweet and gracious to me, 'cause that's just who you are. After the show, a Brit, an Aussie, and a Kiwi walk into a bar. Well, you were lightning on the stage each night, and I loved you from the first. You made me laugh in airport lounges, from Queensland to Christchurch, and all too soon the tour was over. Time to head home across the earth. We'll fly safe, and let me know when you're next in this part of the world. We were oceans apart and time zones upside down, comments and hearts on Instagram, all our busy lives allowed. But I always knew I'd see you on the next time around, when the road took me to Melbourne, and I'd see if you're in town. But God damn it, you were special, and God damn it, you were kind. You made the best fun out of all things, but never left no one behind. And I struggle to imagine that there'll ever come a time when I'm getting into Melbourne, and I don't think that I'll drop you a line. Well, I loved you when I met you. I thought I'd know you 50 years. We had no way of knowing then. Life had other ideas. But that magic you had in you, well, it never disappears. Yeah, we laugh so much about you. It comes as easy as the tears. Well, this universe unravels with no logic and no clue. And to love each other loudly is the best that we can do. But I think if you'd have lived to be 102, we'd still have said she was taken light years way too soon. Well, this road that called us to it, it just goes and goes and goes. And in between these miles, we gotta hold each other close. Words of love delivered swiftly, whispered in the wings of shows. I'll see you down the road, my friend. I'll see you down the road. Well, it's the start of 2020, and I have never been this far. The green room at the Enmore is a galaxy of stars, and you are sweet and gracious to me, 'cause that's just who you are. And after the show, a Brit, an Aussie, and a Kiwi walk into a bar.
Thank you, Grace. Have you got any gigs coming up in Melbourne?
I got a gig coming up in Melbourne. I'll be at the Corner Hotel in September, and I would love to see you there. It's on sale now.
Can you close the show?
Yeah, do you want me to do...
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Oh!
I think we should do black tie. And can I just say a big round of applause and thank you to everyone here at Hamer Hall. Sorry we've run over. Big round of applause to Eliza, and Roya, the Destroya. Alison J. Barton, don't forget to get her poetry. My co-pilot, Celia, Pacquola. The incredible Magda Szubanski. And Grace Petrie. I've been Deborah Francis White. We've been the Guilty Feminists. Good night.
Do you fancy singing along? Cool. This song is called Black Tie. It's got a bit of a chorus sing-along bit where I'm going to sing a line. I want you to reply. It's a call and response. I'm going to sing the first bit. You're going to reply the second bit. The line is, the images that fucked you were a patriarchal structure. Right? I'm going to sing the images that fucked you. You're going to reply, we're a patriarchal structure. Are you with me? It goes like this. And the images that fucked you were a patriarchal structure. It's like that, but louder. If you do it loudly enough, the patriarchy itself will fall tonight, Melbourne. It's on your shoulders. This is called Black Tie. It's about being a butch lesbian and being fucking proud of it. It goes like this. Well, it's a jungle out there. The year 2018, I didn't think we'd still be sorting babies into blue and pink. And all our progress, I wonder what it means when the only girls' clothes that work for me turn out to be boyfriend jeans. Well, that's fine, 'cause I decline a narrow set of rules that just don't work. And these red lines, they're not mine. If you need me, you can find me ironing my shirt, 'cause I'm in black tie tonight. Get a postcard to my year 11 self in her year 11 hell, saying everything's gonna be alright. No, you won't grow out of it, and you will find the clothes that fit. And the images that fucked you were a patriarchal structure, and you never will surrender to a narrow view of gender. And I swear there'll come a day when you won't worry what they say on the labels and on the doors. You will figure out what's yours. And it's a bloody nightmare, trying to fight the spread of bigotry and fear that's uniting Piers Morgan and Jermaine Greer. And all our progress, yeah, I wonder who it's for. When I dared to utter trans lives matter, yeah, and all I got was a turf war. Well, that's fine, 'cause I decline your narrow set of rules, they just don't work. And these red lines, they're not mine. If you need me, you can find me ironing my shirt, 'cause I'm in black tie tonight. Get a postcard to my year 11 self in her year 11 hell, saying everything's gonna be alright. No, you won't grow out of it, you will find the clothes that fit. And the images that fucked you were a patriarchal structure, and you never will surrender to a narrow view of gender. And I swear there'll come a day when you won't worry what they say on the labels and on the doors. You will figure out what's yours. You will figure out what's yours, and that it's got nothing to do with fitting neatly in a box that was constructed to make it seem like people come in just two teams, and anything that's in between ain't good enough. And you will love, and you'll be loved, and you're in black tie tonight. Get a postcard to mine year 11 self in her year 11 hell. Darling, everything's gonna be alright. No, you won't grow out of it, you will find the clothes that fit. And the images that fucked you were a patriarchal structure, and you never will surrender to that narrow view of gender. And there's folks you've yet to meet, but you're exactly up their street, and they've been waiting just as long to hear someone sing this song. Better days are on their way, when it won't matter what they say on the labels and on the doors. You will figure out what's yours. And girl, you're gonna be so happy. just fine. Girl, you're gonna be so happy down the line, down the line. You guys have been amazing. Thank you very much for singing along.
Grace Petrie, everybody! We've been the Guilty Feminist. If you've got any footage, email me at guiltyfeminist@gmail.com. Thank you. Good night. Leave quickly. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Francis-White, guest co-host Celia Pacquola, and our very special guest, Magda Szubanski, with Eliza Hull and Roya the Destroyer, and poetry by Alison J. Barton. The music was by Grace Petrie. The theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge. The producer is Alana Bone from Bone Presents, and Thompson is speaking to Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Kylie Jackson and everyone at Bone Presents and everyone at Hamer Hall, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.
No, we're going to do it at the... Oh, you're doing it now? Oh,
Do we need music?
Oh, we're doing... No, that's for later.
Oh, sorry, it's a trail. Oh, we're trailing it. Sorry, I thought you wanted to do Irish dancing now, so we'll get some music ready as well then.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, good.
I thought Grace could just do diddly-dee.
Well, Grace, you could do your song, your Galway
While
song.
Irish dancing. Oh, I see.
Look, it's actually pretty short, the Irish dancing. It just doesn't need...
Yeah, well, this feels like something we should prep backstage. But but throughout the evening, if anybody does think I'd really like to take a picture of this, but not everybody. That's why I'm trying to nominate somebody, and now everybody's doing it.
The Guilty Feminist is provided exclusively from Acast. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.